Is olive oil actually healthy? That's the topic for today's podcast here on the Lifestyle Based Healing Podcast. I'm Dylan, your co-host, alongside my mom, Robin, and we're going to dive into this topic. Mom, how did this topic come to mind?
Yeah, it came to mind because I was recently giving a talk to a group of people about nutrition. And the group that I was talking to were people that were in their retired 50s, 60s, kind of lifelong learners, people that are really striving to be as healthy as possible. And the topic came up of olive oil. And one of the women in the audience revealed that she was literally taking like 2 tablespoons just straight on olive oil a day and felt like it was something she had to do for health. And so, of course, I was just like, I wonder where she got that information. And I remembered that I get asked, and you probably know, Dylan, you do too, get asked this question a lot from people we work with. And so I think it's really a good topic to be having here because people want to be healthy. They want to do everything possible. And so I asked this woman, I said, do you enjoy doing that? Is that something you can do long term and you enjoy it? And she said, no, it's horrible. It tastes horrible. And then of course, I asked her, do you feel any healthier by doing it? And she said, I can't tell. And that's sort of the thing. Sometimes we do these things and we don't know if they're helping or harming, but we believe because of the media and what's shared out there is that, oh, this must be healthy. So that's what I want to dive into here is about that. And, first of all, she shared with me that the olive oil she purchased, it was extra virgin olive oil, special stuff, special, blend or something that she spent a lot of money for. And she just was gagging it down. And I would argue that life's too short to be gagging down stuff you don't like. I told her, why don't you just eat the olives? And that just had never occurred to her. That I said, do you mind enjoy eating just the olives more and be having full on the benefit of the fiber and everything that goes in with the olives rather than just doing this highly processed, refined product, which is olive oil. Makes
Yeah, I
sense?
imagine this conversation is going to parallel a lot with, generally the conversation about good fats versus bad fats, or
Yeah.
healthy fats versus unhealthy fats, as well as like processed versus unprocessed stuff. Because people tend to hyper focus or go based on that recent headline they saw, and not really understand the greater context. So, what is it about olive oil? Like, is it healthy? Is it not healthy? How would you approach that question?
Yeah, and so I would basically approach it by, and this is what I'm always trying to get underlying what people believe, right? Why are they doing what they're doing? Because they've heard something that caused them to do this. And so I want to kind of tackle the question from that. And, it's because it's in the media a lot, where it's talked about a lot, right? And so I think olive oil got its sort of um, you know, crown, so to speak, as being this liquid gold, for lack of a better word, from the fact that, it is better than, butter and lard and coconut oil and these things. And so, because there is less saturated fat in it. So, and it's definitely when we're trying to lower saturated fats, and we are, if we want to have better heart health and lower our bad cholesterol, the LDL. And so, the hope is that this is going to be a better swap to do that and get rid of some of those other fats that we know are higher in all of these things we don't want. And so, in that sense, it's better. And it has unsaturated fats in them, and they're more anti-inflammatory than some of the other ones. Here's the thing, it's not completely perfect. So olive oil is still about 14% of it comes from saturated fat. So when you ask, what are you comparing it to? So if you're comparing extra virgin olive oil, and like I said, they're not all created equal. Some of these olive oils you purchase are combined with other oils, so they're not completely pure. They might lose some of their antioxidant properties that they tout because of the way it's stored or how long it's been stored. And so buying a higher quality one certainly is better, but how much is too much? And then the question is, if your goal is to completely reduce your saturated fats because you want to lower your LDL cholesterol, okay, then every time you pour it on, you're adding saturated fats into your diet. So yes, it's better, but is it better if you compared none to olive oil? How does that compare? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's just like you said, it's compared to what? So many studies come out that say, I don't know, just made up off the top of my head, like an egg a day is healthy, and then you have to compare it to what? Well, they're comparing it to like a McDonald's McSandwich or whatever it is,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
And
so
this is
it's always based on comparison. And so healthy compared to what? It can be quite deceptive. And I think you talked about a little bit about why that might be is because it's still it's less than saturated fat, but it's still got that saturated fat.
it still has
So
some. And here's the thing. I have a friend that believes it's the elixir of all health and adds it to everything. So now if you're literally getting a tablespoon has like 1.9 grams of saturated fats in it, okay? If you're adding it to everything, are you pushing up that number of what the American Heart Association wants you to be? They want you to be consuming less than 6% of your calories from saturated fats. And in a 2,000 calorie a day diet, that's about 13 grams. That's like a hamburger patty. So if you're having your hamburger patty and then you're adding olive oil and all these other things, you are now over that. Okay. And this is what I want people to start realizing. Everything that you're adding in might be bringing something with it that you don't want. And that was the conversation I had with this woman in my talk. And so I said, and again, there's zero fiber in it. And so I said, could you at least put it on a salad, instead of just drinking it down? And at least you're now adding some fiber and other nutrients and things with it, and it'll probably be way more enjoyable. And so then what often follows on that conversation is then, well, what about the Mediterranean diet? This is what they eat olive oil. Well, the part that we miss in America, in the US, is that we hyper focus on the olive oil component. Yes, they do use it, but they also do a whole host of other things
yeah,
like
it's meant to be
eat
taken as a whole,
as a
not just
whole.
little parts,
Absolutely.
not the parts
Yeah.
that you just like.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you adding the olive oil and you're still eating a junky diet? Okay. That's not going to save your health, is my point. Okay. And so, and just so you know, if you're trying to lose weight, and many people are, a fat is a fat is a fat. Okay. And it's still 9 calories per gram, whether it comes from olive oil or it comes from canola oil. Calorically it's the same, and none of it has fiber in it. So I think this is where people start going wrong. They hear bits and pieces, and nutrition can be kind of confusing that way. They hear bits and pieces and they start adding things into their diet that with good intention. And so that's why I really think this is an important topic for people to take a step back and go, all right, am I implementing this in a way that is actually really beneficial for me and is more better? Maybe not. Okay, maybe, I think a lot of the experts right now are saying if you're going to be adding it in, don't do more than two tablespoons, okay? And lower your saturated fat content in every other area. Okay, and so that looks like looking at your diet in with a fine-tooth comb. Okay, so yeah, it's an interesting topic. And like I said, I would love to see that woman eat the olives. Just eat the olives. And then you would be getting the same benefit in a very synergistic way instead of having it just so hyper isolated into this processed, oil.
Yeah, so it's always something that, you have to just understand and then weigh how much what your goals are and what risks you're willing to take. And what sacrifices you're willing to make, of course. Do you eat olive oil?
No, no, I
Zero?
zero. No. In fact, it's funny. I was recently making a pumpkin muffin recipe for my other son's birthday, and it called for olive oil in it. I'm like, what? Why would we put olive oil in this? Because, and by the way, canola oil is actually lower in saturated fat. So if I was going to put something, I would have chosen probably canola oil, but it just didn't need it. I mean, I substituted applesauce in there, and the substitution was fine. And so I don't use it. I don't use it. I'm giving it every single year for Christmas. Everybody listening that gives me olive oil, stop because I don't use it. I re-gift it or give it away because I don't use it. I just don't see the need. I'll eat olives on occasion, because I just want the whole food. I don't want the processed food. So the question is, do you eat olive oil?
Do you avoid it because no, I don't. Do you
Yeah.
do you avoid it because it's empty calories? Do you avoid it because it's got saturated fat? Do you avoid it because you don't like the taste? Why do you not eat it?
Mainly because I don't need it in something to make it taste good, and I don't want the added saturated fat. Okay, I just don't because there's so much research about how saturated fats, aren't great for diabetes. They're not great for heart health. It drives your cholesterol up, and those are just things that I don't even want to go there. And since I don't really like it or miss it, why would I add it? It's just
Mm.
I don't need it, right? It's just I just don't need it. Now, a lot of people like the flavor of it, and in that case, I say use it in a salad dressing where you're actually it's gonna enhance whatever you're putting it on. You know, and if it's cooking, I don't even cook with oil, any oil. I cook with vegetable broth, but that's me. Okay, so I just don't see the need for it because it's empty calories. It brings nothing with it. And in my world, everything that I'm eating should bring something with it in a positive way. And I don't feel like it brings enough. There's not enough benefit from the unsaturated fats to warrant me using it because, you know, even those polyunsaturated fats that are high in omega 6s, we overconsume them. We absolutely do. And then everybody's worried about increasing their omega 3s. Well, just bring down your omega 6s and the ratio is fine, right? That's a whole other topic. So,
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's just why increase your risk if there's nothing to be gained from it? Like you don't enjoy it, why add
yeah.
it? So
Yeah. And now, if I grew up in the Mediterranean, it was part of my culture, that might be a different story, but it wasn't. It's not. Like I said, I'd rather eat the actual olive, and I don't even eat those very much. They're kind of salty and but they do add a little bit of flavor onto something and I would enjoy that more. So it's I guess the point I want to make is you don't have to be adding it into your diet to be healthy. And, again, if using olive oil enables you to stop using lard or stop using butter or margarine or coconut oil, okay, if you're using coconut oil, swap it out immediately. If it allows you to make that transition, then I'm all over it, okay? But there's always steps and levels of health, and so just know that yes, it's better, but what is even better than that? Maybe not using it at all, okay? Or just definitely using it in areas that really enhance the food for you, for sure.
yeah, so I see a few more notes here. Did you want to cover anything else? It sounded like we got pretty much
I
anything.
think we covered it all. I think the biggest takeaway is, di- and it's different for everybody because, that's why I love this topic of lifestyle-based healing because everyone has different lifestyles and everybody has different goals for how they want to live their life and what they expect their body to do to get them to live that life. And so I think that determining what's best for you is really crucial. And again, don't eat anything you don't like. Figure out a way to enjoy it. But I think the point I wanted to make is depending on what your health concern is, So if heart health is and insulin resistance and weight and some of these other things are concerns for you, you need to consider everything that's coming into your body, and weigh it all and say, is this helping me or is it harming me? And I think that, like I said, if it's getting you off of the, the
Something
oils and
works.
the fats we know that aren't good for you, that's a benefit for sure.
Awesome. Well, you can find us at therevitalizedcenter.com or subscribe to wherever you're viewing this on or listening to it for more content like this in the future. That's all we have for you today. We'll see you in the next
Yeah.
one.
Bye, everyone.